Get down here now. Dad's voice boomed through the house, rattling the dusty picture frames on the wall. I could feel the tension rising even before I descended the stairs, each step heavier than the last. I had been expecting this confrontation for weeks. It wasn't the first time they tried something like this, but it felt different this time, more deliberate, more final. What is it now? I asked, stepping into the living room where Dad sat with his arms crossed, his face red, and that tight-lipped scowl that made his forehead crinkle up. Next to him sat my stepmother, Monica. She looked cool as always, perfectly poised on the couch, legs crossed, her expensive manicure tapping impatiently on her lap. Sit down, Dad commanded, though I refused. I said sit down, he snapped, his voice growing harder. I'm good standing, thanks, I replied, folding my arms and leaning against the doorway. Monica cleared her throat. This attitude is exactly why we need to talk, Emma, she said, her voice dripping with feigned concern. You've been difficult. Ever since I married your father, you've been resistant. I snorted. You mean ever since you tried to take over everything like it's your personal empire? Monica raised an eyebrow, unfazed. We're a family now, and families make sacrifices. Speaking of which, I know where this is going, I interrupted. Let me guess, you want me to move out? Dad finally chimed in, rubbing the bridge of his nose as though this was all so exhausting for him. Emma, this is for the best. Your stepsister is pregnant, she and Jason need more space. I felt my blood begin to boil. This is my house, Dad. You can't just throw me out because Ashley made a mess of her life. Watch your tone, he snapped, standing up now. This isn't just about you anymore. Ashley's baby will need a proper home, and we've talked it over. You mean Monica decided, and you just went along with it? I cut him off, the bitterness seeping into my voice. Monica's smile didn't waver, though her eyes narrowed ever so slightly. Emma, dear, this is the adult thing to do. You're young, you can find another place. Besides, we've been more than generous. You've lived here rent-free for years. That's because Mom left the house to me. I shouted, finally losing the last shred of patience I had. She didn't leave it to *you*, or Monica*, or Ashley. She left it to me. And we've been kind enough to let you stay, Monica retorted smoothly. But things change. Ashley needs this house more than you do. She's going to be a mother soon. I scoffed, pacing back and forth, unable to believe what I was hearing. This isn't happening. You can't just kick me out of my own home. I'm not going anywhere. Dad stepped in again, his voice lower, as if trying to appeal to reason. Emma, we're not kicking you out. We're just asking you to be reasonable. Ashley and Jason. I don't care about Ashley and Jason. I shot back. She's the one who decided to get pregnant. She's the one who dropped out of school and can't hold a job. Why is that suddenly my problem? I worked my butt off to keep this house after Mom died. Where were you, Dad? You were off playing happy family with Monica while I was grieving alone. Dad's face softened for a second, but it was Monica who spoke next, with that icy calmness she always wore. Emma, we understand this is difficult for you, but you're not a child anymore. We've been more than patient. Now, we need to put Ashley's needs first. She's having a baby, and I'm not giving up my house because your spoiled daughter can't take responsibility for her own life. I fired back. Monica's eyes flickered, a dangerous glint flashing for just a second before she settled back into her calm demeanor. Well, she said quietly, if you won't leave voluntarily, we'll have to take other steps. I blinked, my heart racing. What is that supposed to mean? We've already spoken to a lawyer, Dad said, his voice low. Technically, the house is under my name, since I was married to your mother. We can arrange to have you relocated. I stared at them, feeling the room spin. You've got to be kidding me. Emma, we don't want this to turn into a fight, Dad continued, but his tone had hardened again. We're just asking you to do the right thing here. The right thing? I laughed, the sound hollow and bitter. You mean hand over my house to Ashley so she can raise her kid while you and Monica play happy grandparents? Watch your mouth, young lady, Dad warned. Or what? I shot back. You'll throw me out? You'll drag me to court over my own house? Monica stood up then, smoothing her blouse with deliberate care. We're offering you time to find a new place, Emma. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I stared at them, feeling the anger rising, my hands shaking with it. I'm not going anywhere, I said, my voice cold and firm. You can't just take what's mine. We'll see about that, Monica said softly, a chilling smile curling on her lips as she took Dad's arm, leading him out of the room. I stood there, frozen, as the weight of their words settled in. They were serious. They were really going to try and take everything from me. But I wasn't going down without a fight. The following days felt like I was living in a surreal nightmare. Every time I walked through the house, it felt as if it had been stripped of its warmth. My childhood memories lingered in the corners, taunting me while the cold reality of my situation loomed over me. I was determined to stand my ground, but the pressure from Dad and Monica was suffocating. "Hey, my best friend," Lily said, her voice soft and concerned as we sat at my kitchen table. "Are you okay? You look exhausted." I rubbed my eyes, trying to shake off the fog. "I'm fine, just dealing with my dad and Monica, you know." Lily leaned closer, her brow furrowed. "I heard they're trying to kick you out. Is that true?" "Yeah," I replied, bitterness lacing my words. "They think I should just pack up and leave because Ashley is having a baby. Like that's my fault." Lily sighed, shaking her head. "That's so unfair. You've lived there forever. This is your home. Tell me about it," I said, crossing my arms defiantly. "I'm not going anywhere. I refuse to let them take it from me." "But what are you going to do?" she asked, concern still etched on her face. "They're your dad and stepmom. Don't you think they'll try to take legal action or something?" "Maybe," I admitted, the anxiety creeping back in. "But I've been talking to Mom's old friend, Mr. Jacobs. He's a lawyer and said he could help me if it comes to that." "Good," Lily said, nodding. "But I think you need to have a serious talk with your dad. Maybe you can make him see reason." I scoffed, the thought making me roll my eyes. "Reason? With Dad? He's blinded by Monica's manipulation. He's not the man he used to be." Lily frowned, her voice lowering. "Do you think he's really changed? Or is he just trying to keep the peace with her?" I leaned back in my chair, thinking. It's hard to say. He was always different after Mom died, but now? He seems completely under her thumb. "Then it's time to stand your ground," she said firmly. "You can't let them push you around. You deserve to fight for your home." The conviction in her voice sparked a fire in my heart. "You're right, I won't let them take this away from me. I just need to come up with a plan." "Start by talking to Mr. Jacobs," she suggested. "Get your legal footing. If they think they can just walk all over you, they'll try." I nodded, grateful for her support. "Thanks, Lily, you always know what to say. Anytime, just remember, you're not alone in this. I'm here for you, no matter what." As she left, I felt a mixture of hope and determination. Maybe I could still fight for my home, for everything that my mom had left me. I wasn't going to let Monica's scheming destroy my life. The next day, I met with Mr. Jacobs at his small, cluttered office downtown. The walls were lined with diplomas and framed photographs of him shaking hands with various clients. He looked up from his desk, adjusting his glasses as I walked in. "Emma, it's good to see you again," he said warmly. "What can I do for you?" "Mr. Jacobs, I need your help," I said, my voice steady. "My dad and stepmom are trying to kick me out of my house." He frowned, his brow furrowing with concern. "I'm sorry to hear that. Can you tell me more about the situation?" I explained everything, their plans for Ashley, the ultimatum they had given me, and my growing fear of losing my home. Mr. Jacobs listened carefully, nodding as I spoke. "This is a tricky situation," he said after I finished. "Since your mother left the house to you, it is technically your property. However, your father can complicate things because he is listed on the title as well. Have you considered having a conversation with him about this?" "I've tried," I replied, my frustration bubbling to the surface. "But he's so wrapped up in what Monica wants that he doesn't even see how unfair this is to me." "Understandable," he said, tapping a pencil against his desk thoughtfully. "If it comes to legal action, we can argue that you've lived there for years and have established residency. I can help you with that. But I strongly recommend trying to resolve this amicably first. Legal battles can be exhausting and expensive." "Right, but if they refuse to budge?" I asked, my heart racing at the thought. "Then we'll take the necessary steps to protect your interests," he assured me. "But I want you to remember that sometimes confronting the issue directly can be the best course of action." "Okay," I said, feeling a flicker of hope. "I'll try to talk to him again." Mr. Jacobs smiled gently. "Good, just be prepared for whatever may come. Keep records of any conversations you have with them regarding this issue. It could help your case later." As I left his office, I felt a renewed sense of determination. I would stand my ground. I wouldn't let Dad and Monica push me out of my own home without a fight. Later that evening, I confronted my dad when he got home from work. He dropped his briefcase by the door, and I could see the weariness in his eyes. "Dad, can we talk?" I asked, my heart pounding. "About what?" he replied, his tone already defensive. About Ashley in the house, I said, choosing my words carefully. I've spoken to a lawyer, and I need you to understand that I'm not just going to leave. He frowned, crossing his arms. Emma, we've been over this. Ashley needs the space for her baby, and you need to think about what's best for the family. I took a deep breath, willing myself to remain calm. I get that Ashley is having a baby, but this house was left to me, Dad. You can't just give it away because she's pregnant. Emma, you're being selfish, he said, frustration creeping into his voice. This is about family. Ashley needs our support. And what about me? I shot back. I've been the one taking care of everything since Mom passed. I'm the one who has lived here and kept it together. What about my needs? He hesitated, the anger draining from his face as the realization hit him. I didn't realize you felt that way. Of course you didn't, I replied, the frustration boiling over. You've been too busy trying to make a happy family with Monica and Ashley to notice that I'm struggling. His eyes softened for a moment. Emma, I'm sorry if I haven't been there for you. But you have to understand, I'm trying to keep things together. I shook my head, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes. You're tearing them apart, Dad. You're choosing Ashley over me, and it's not fair. I'm not choosing anyone, he said, raising his hands in defeat. I just want what's best for everyone. Then stop listening to Monica. I pleaded, feeling desperate. She's the one who's pushing this. Can't you see that? I just don't want to fight, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. I just want to keep my family together. Then help me keep my home, I said, my voice cracking. You're my dad, and I need you to stand by me. For a long moment, he stood there, conflicted. I could see the wheels turning in his mind, the tension between us palpable. But then, just as quickly, that familiar resolve returned. I can't promise that, Emma. You have to think about what's best for Ashley and the baby. I took a step back, the weight of his words crashing down on me. You've made your choice, Dad, I said, the hurt evident in my voice. And it's not me. As I turned away, I felt like I was losing not only my home but also my father. I had to be strong, for myself and for my mother's memory. But deep down, a part of me wondered if I would ever truly win this battle against my own family. The atmosphere at home grew increasingly tense as the days passed. I could feel a storm brewing, one that threatened to tear apart whatever semblance of family we had left. Dad would come home from work, and I could see the heaviness in his shoulders as he entered, almost as if he was carrying the weight of the world. Meanwhile, Monica maintained her composed facade, but her glances at me were sharper than ever. You need to get out of my way, I muttered under my breath whenever she crossed my path in the kitchen, her heels clicking against the floor as she prepared yet another meal for Ashley. It felt like I was the intruder in my own house, a ghost haunting the halls while she settled into my mother's former domain. One evening, as I was cleaning up after dinner, Ashley's voice broke the silence. Hey, Emma, can we talk? I turned around, surprised to see her standing in the doorway, her arms cradling her growing belly. She looked vulnerable for a moment, a softness in her eyes that I hadn't seen before. Sure, I replied cautiously. What's up? I know things have been tense lately, she started, looking down at the floor. But I wanted to see if we could work something out. Work something out? I echoed, disbelief creeping into my voice. What do you mean? You mean like how you're trying to take my house? I'm not trying to take anything from you, she said, her voice rising defensively. I just want a place to raise my baby. It's not easy for me either, you know. I didn't plan on getting pregnant. I sighed, rubbing my temples in frustration. You think I don't know that? I'm not mad at you, Ashley. I'm mad at Dad and Monica. This is all they're doing. Ashley bit her lip, her expression shifting to one of understanding. I get that, but they're just trying to help. They think that I should just pack up and leave? I interrupted, my voice rising again. This is my home, Ashley. It's where I grew up, where I have memories of Mom. I can't just hand it over. I'm not asking you to hand it over, she snapped back, her eyes flashing. I'm just saying that maybe we can figure something out that works for both of us. Like maybe you could move into a smaller room or something. Move into a smaller room? In my own house? I was incredulous, shaking my head in disbelief. Do you hear how ridiculous that sounds? Why should I have to sacrifice everything just because you made a mistake? She looked hurt, and for a moment, I felt a pang of guilt. But that guilt was quickly overshadowed by anger. I'm sorry, Ashley, I just can't do this. You need to talk to Dad. He's the one making all these decisions without considering how it affects me. I'll try, she said softly, her expression turning serious. But you should know that he's under a lot of pressure from Monica too. She's been difficult lately. Difficult? I scoffed. That's putting it lightly. She's been downright cruel, pushing me out of my own home. Ashley sighed, her shoulders drooping. I wish things were different. But can we at least try to keep things civil? I don't want you and Dad fighting all the time. It's hard for all of us. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for a moment, I felt a flicker of empathy. Okay, let's try to keep it civil. But I can't promise I'll be happy about it. Fair enough, she said with a small smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. As she left the room, I couldn't shake the feeling that the walls were closing in around me. I needed to find a way to regain control over my life and my home, and fast. The following day, I decided to visit Mr. Jacobs again to discuss our next steps. Emma, I'm glad you came back, Mr. Jacobs said, his expression serious as I entered his office. What's on your mind? I need to know my options, I said, getting straight to the point. Dad and Monica aren't budging. They really think they can kick me out. He nodded, leaning forward. Let's go over the legal aspects. As I mentioned before, the house was left to you, and that gives you a strong standing. However, since your father's name is on the title, he has rights as well. I understand that, I replied, feeling frustrated. But I've been living there for years. I'm the one who took care of the place after Mom died. Right, and that's an important point to make, he said. Establishing residency can work in your favor. If it comes down to a legal dispute, you have a strong case. What should I do if they try to evict me? I asked, the knot in my stomach tightening. If they attempt to take legal action, it's essential to have everything documented, Mr. Jacobs replied. Keep records of any conversations you have regarding the house. That way, if it escalates, we can build a case based on your history there. Okay, I said, feeling more resolute. What if I want to counter their claim? Mr. Jacobs paused for a moment, contemplating my question. If you want to contest their decision legally, you would need to file for a declaration of rights to the property. This would legally affirm your ownership based on your mother's will. Let's do it, I said, a fire igniting within me. I won't let them take my home without a fight. Mr. Jacobs smiled, his eyes gleaming with approval. That's the spirit, Emma. We'll prepare the necessary paperwork and begin the process. But I urge you to think carefully about your next steps. This can get messy, and it may affect your relationship with your father. I know, I said, biting my lip. But I can't just sit back and let them push me around. This is my life, my home. After our meeting, I walked back home feeling empowered for the first time in weeks. It was time to take control, no matter the consequences. Later that night, I confronted Dad again. We need to talk, I said, standing firm in front of him as he relaxed on the couch. He looked up, weariness etched on his face. What now, Emma? I thought we had already discussed this. I'm not going to just sit by and let you and Monica decide my fate, I said, my voice steady. I've spoken to a lawyer. His brows furrowed in confusion. A lawyer? Why would you do that? Because I'm not giving up my home, I replied, my tone firm. You think you can just push me out? You're wrong. I'm going to fight for what's mine. Emma, please, he said, standing up now. This isn't the way to handle this. You're only making things worse. I'm making things worse? You're the one trying to evict me. I shot back. I have every right to stand up for myself, Dad. He ran a hand through his hair, looking genuinely conflicted. I just want to keep the peace, Emma. This isn't just about you, it's about the whole family. The family you've created with Monica and Ashley at my expense? I exclaimed, feeling the heat rise in my chest. You can't just ignore me because you're trying to keep everyone else happy. I'm not ignoring you, he insisted, his voice rising. I'm trying to do what I think is best. Best for who? Not me, I shouted. You've changed, Dad. You used to be someone I could count on. Now, it feels like you're just a puppet for Monica's whims. He stepped back, his face contorted with anger. That's unfair. You have no idea what it's like for me. No, Dad, I said, my voice lowering but filled with conviction. You don't know what it's like for me. This is my home, my life. You're letting her walk all over you, and I won't stand for it. Enough, he barked, frustration spilling over. You're being unreasonable. I won't allow this to turn into a family war. And I won't allow you to throw me out of my own home. I shot back, my heart racing as we stared each other down. In that moment, the air crackled with tension, and I realized that whatever bond we once had was hanging by a thread. I was prepared to fight, but I could see in Dad's eyes that he was too. I turned away, knowing this battle was far from over. It was time to gather my strength and fight for my home, no matter the cost. The following days felt like a countdown to an impending storm. Every time I stepped into the house, the weight of the tension settled on my shoulders. I knew I had to prepare for the confrontation that was brewing, and I couldn't let fear or doubt creep in. After my talk with Mr. Jacobs, I spent hours organizing my thoughts and gathering evidence of my residence. I printed out old photographs from family gatherings in the house, receipts for utilities in my name, and any other documents I could find that solidified my claim. I even reached out to my mom's friends to see if any of them had memories or stories that could reinforce my position. One afternoon, while I was sifting through old boxes in the attic, I stumbled upon a dusty photo album. My heart ached as I flipped through the pages filled with snapshots of my childhood. My mom laughing at my birthday parties, my dad proudly holding me as a baby, and family vacations that now felt like a lifetime ago. "Emma?" Lily's voice echoed up the stairs, breaking me from my reverie. "Yeah, I'm up here," I called back, wiping away a tear as I quickly closed the album. Lily appeared at the top of the stairs, her eyes scanning the cluttered attic. "What are you doing up here? Digging for treasure?" "Something like that," I said, forcing a smile. "Just trying to find anything that can help me with this mess." She stepped closer, her expression softening. "You okay? You seem overwhelmed." "I'm just trying to gather evidence to show that I have a right to stay in the house," I admitted, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders. "I'm determined not to let Dad and Monica push me out." "Good," she said, her voice steady. "You deserve to fight for your home. Have you thought about what you're going to say when you confront them again?" "I have," I said, taking a deep breath. "But I know they're not going to take it well. I just need to be ready for whatever they throw at me." "Then let's practice," she suggested, a spark of determination lighting her eyes. "I can be your dad or Monica. Just say what you need to say, and I'll react how I think they would." "Okay," I said, feeling a rush of gratitude. "Let's do this." We spent the next hour role-playing various scenarios, with Lily taking on the roles of both my dad and Monica. She pushed back against my arguments, and I found myself getting increasingly fired up as I defended my stance. "Emma, you're being unreasonable," she yelled, mimicking Dad's frustrated tone. "We're just trying to help Ashley." "Help Ashley?" I shot back, channeling my inner strength. "What about me? I'm the one who has been here, taking care of everything since Mom passed. I have every right to stay." Lily smiled, clearly impressed. "See, you've got this." The next day, I gathered my documents and prepared for the showdown. The living room felt like a battleground as I paced back and forth, mentally rehearsing everything I wanted to say. When Dad walked in, I straightened up, heart racing. "Dad, we need to talk." "Now." He raised an eyebrow, glancing at me with a mixture of confusion and wariness. "What is it this time?" "I have something important to say," I said, taking a deep breath. "I've talked to Mr. Jacobs, and I'm prepared to fight for my home." He crossed his arms, his expression turning defensive. "Emma, I really wish you wouldn't involve a lawyer. This isn't necessary." "It absolutely is," I replied, my voice steady. "You and Monica are trying to kick me out of my own house, and I won't let that happen. I have the right to live here. This house was left to me, and I've done everything to keep it running after Mom died." He shook his head, exasperation creeping into his voice. "You're being selfish. This isn't just about you. We have a family to think about." "Family?" I exclaimed, incredulous. "You mean the family you've created with Monica and Ashley while ignoring me? I'm your daughter, too. You've pushed me aside like I don't matter." Monica appeared in the doorway, her eyes narrowed. "What's going on here?" "Emma's being dramatic again," Dad said, his tone dripping with irritation. "Dramatic? I'm standing up for myself." I shot back, feeling the heat rise in my cheeks. "I'm tired of being treated like a stranger in my own home." Monica stepped further into the room, her arms crossed over her chest. "You really think you can just waltz in here and make demands? This is not just your house anymore. It's always been my house," I countered, pointing at the documents spread out on the coffee table. "Look, my name is on the title. I have rights here." Dad looked at the documents, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. "Emma, this is a family matter. We can work something out." "There's nothing to work out," I said, my voice rising. "You're trying to take everything away from me, and I won't let you." I refused to be pushed aside. Monica scoffed, her face twisted with disdain. "You think you can just keep everything because of some old documents? You don't understand how the world works. You need to grow up." I felt the anger bubbling up inside me, the words spilling out before I could stop them. You think you're so much better than me because you married Dad? You've taken everything from me, and I'm done being quiet about it. What are you even talking about? Dad said, frustration etched on his face. You're being unreasonable. No, Dad, you're the one being unreasonable. I yelled, my voice trembling. I've done nothing but respect this family, and what do I get in return? A stepmother who's trying to push me out and a father who's too afraid to stand up for me. Emma, please, he said, his voice softer now, almost pleading. I'm trying to keep the peace. You're making this so much harder than it needs to be. No, Dad, I said, shaking my head. You're making it hard by not recognizing my right to stay here. If you want to side with Monica and Ashley, that's your choice. But I will fight for what's mine. Monica stepped forward, her voice icy. You think you can win this battle? You're just a kid, you don't know how the world works, and you're going to lose. I looked her squarely in the eyes, feeling a surge of confidence. I'm not just a kid. I'm your husband's daughter, and I won't back down. I'll fight for my home, and I won't let you bully me into submission. For a moment, silence enveloped the room. Dad's expression shifted, uncertainty flickering in his eyes as he looked between Monica and me. I could see the internal struggle written all over his face. Emma, let's not escalate this any further, he finally said, his voice wavering. We can find a way to make this work. I felt a surge of hope at his words. Then stand with me, Dad. Don't let Monica dictate your choices. This is my home, and you know it. He hesitated, glancing at Monica, who was visibly fuming. I just want what's best for everyone, he said slowly. But I can't ignore Ashley's needs either. Ashley can find another place to stay, I interjected, feeling a mix of desperation and determination. She's not a child anymore. She can figure it out. Emma, that's not fair, Dad replied, frustration creeping back into his voice. You're not thinking about the bigger picture. I am thinking about the bigger picture, I shot back, feeling the tension boil over. The bigger picture is that I want to keep my home. This isn't just a house, it's my life, my memories. Dad sighed deeply, running a hand through his hair in frustration. I need time to think about this. Time? I exclaimed. You've already made your choice. You've chosen Monica and Ashley over me. I haven't chosen anyone, he snapped back, his voice rising again. I'm trying to do what I think is best. Best for who? Not me, I screamed, tears welling in my eyes. In that moment, I felt completely alone, as if the walls of the house were closing in around me. I had fought for so long, and yet it seemed like everything was slipping away. Emma, Dad started, but I cut him off. No, Dad, if you can't see how wrong this is, then maybe you've already made your choice. I won't let you take my home without a fight. With that, I turned and stormed out of the room, my heart pounding in my chest. I could hear Dad's voice fading behind me, a mix of frustration and regret. But I couldn't let that deter me. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I felt a sense of resolve wash over me. No matter what happened, I wouldn't give up. This was my home, my life, and I would do whatever it took to protect it. The next morning, I contacted Mr. Jacobs and set the wheels in motion for my legal battle. I couldn't let fear dictate my future any longer. As the days turned into weeks, the tension in the house continued to escalate, but I stood firm in my resolve. I was ready to fight, ready to reclaim my life. With every passing moment, I felt stronger, and I knew that the showdown was just beginning. No matter the outcome, I would face it head on. This was my home, and I wasn't going down without a fight.